Hello everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing my SAT questions on the Khan Academy, and I'm going to be reviewing the questions that I've gotten wrong. So for the second question, it was asking the main theme of the passage. I chose creativity needs to be expressed concretely, um, though it did talk about that you need to think before you write and all that. I think there's a quote. Yeah, here, you simply write what is swimming on the top of your brain, and the top is nothing but pond scum, dead leaves, and mosquito spawn. Though it does talk about that, it's more actually talking about like effort. You have to put effort into your work, which is B right here, which was the correct thing. And for question 11, this one was talking about how the web affects your memory. And though it does like sort of talk about like how people depend on, or like it changes the way that humans think of storing information. It's actually like the rest of it is actually talking about sharing the findings of a study examining the effects of computer use on memory recall. Yeah, this one, library states, let's see. No, that doesn't matter, but like here, written list of users' passwords for websites. I'm sure it's somewhere in here. It does state that like where you don't have to remember everything in the world for yourself, and then he gives examples and all that. I chose this one because like I thought it was like to help them locate stuff, but it says specific books. And I'm not sure if it talks about books, but this is like really specific. Wow, this one is more general because like websites, and this is books, and yeah. This one I chose required to memorize details that will then be made inaccessible. The discussion of the experiment suggests that people are inclined to think of specific information sources in response to being required to memorize detail that will then be made inaccessible. I think it's this part where it talks about the, the project, or like the experiment. I chose that because yeah, it says half their work would be saved on a computer, the other half would be informed that the statements would be erased. And instead, it's asked them to provide facts that they're already not familiar, that are not already familiar to them. Yeah. Yeah, because it was thinking. Yeah, because it was talking about the first experiment. I was reading down here when I should have been reading at the first part, or like the whole part in general. It was like demonstrated that we're more likely to think of a computer term like Yahoo or Google after being asked a set of difficult trivia questions. And this one corresponds with this 35 to 38. That's the first one. Yeah, that was the correct one, but instead I chose 42 to 44. Yeah, in subsequent memory testing, participants who told their work would not be saved were best at recalling statements. Yeah, like it does technically fit, like for this one, but it's like the experiments suggest that people are inclined to think of specific information sources, and in response to being, um, it would probably be the first experiment, not the other two, because it just makes more sense, I guess. Because this is yeah, because it brings it up here, and this is just really just explaining one, and then talking about like there were some of them were able to recall the statements more accurately, or somewhat. And based on Wagner's fourth experiment, what is the most likely explanation for the findings of the largest single group of participants represented in the graph? Okay, so fourth experiment, memory of statements and folder locations. Let's see the questions. Those participants focus on remembering the folder locations. Folder locations, it is big, or like, is a big group, but it's not as big as remembering nothing. Those participants attempted to remember the statements, but not in the folder locations. This one is the second smallest, so it's not that one. Those participants did not attempt to remember any specific pieces of information. I chose this because it says remember nothing here, but it's remembering nothing in general, but here's not attempt to remember any specific pieces of information. So yeah, I should watch out for like the stuff that comes before as well, like that's gonna help. And there's not enough information to determine the cause and the results for those participants. Yeah, this is the best choice because like on the graph, those who remember nothing, yeah, it's approximately 40% of the participants cannot remember anything. And yeah, it isn't really explained by the description of the fourth experiment. Yeah. And for this one, 10 to 13. A lucky guppy is born above a waterfall or a set of rapids which will keep out the predatory fish called pike chilids found in calmer downstream waters. And I chose inhabits an environment that provides natural protection from environments. See this one, 13 to 15. As you might expect, the guppy mortality rate, that is, the proportion of individuals that die, is much higher in those sites with rapacious chilids than those in those without them. That's not correct either. And then 36 is right here. This kind of real world yeah, that's not it either. And although 44, although small predatory killfish occurred in these new sites, these fish do not pose anything close to the danger of chilids. Yeah, and yeah, it does bring up how these fish do not really pose anything close to the danger, and it ties in with this part about like provides natural protection from predators. Though it's like not 100% protection, it's much better than they were in the environment they were before. Okay, and for this one, how does Smith develop an argument about slavery as a political question? Line 4, over the course of the passage. Okay, we take part in discussion. It is not true that it is a merely political question. It is otherwise a question of justice, of humanity, morality, of religion. Okay, she claims that designation is an outdated one and offers alternative definitions. Skimming through this, I don't think she brings up like alternative definitions. See, she dismisses the designation as too narrow, but then demonstrates its relevance to her audience. Let's see then. See, this is the best choice. In the second sentence, Smith voices her opposition to this argument. It is not true that slavery is merely a political question. It is likewise okay. In other words, slavery is too broad of a room to just be political. However, in the fourth paragraph, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4? No, 4 is here. By admitting it to be a political question, we have no interest in the welfare of our country. Okay. Doesn't mean that women can have no interest in the welfare of the country. Therefore, Smith develops her argument about slavery as a political question over the course of the passage by first dismissing the designation as too narrow, but later suggesting political questions are relevant to the woman in her audience. Yeah, this one really threw me off because usually in the SAT ratings, you wouldn't bring up something about a point and later contradict yourself. But let's see what I chose. She contends that the designation has become trite, and then invites her audience to revitalize it. She then describes the meaning the designation has. Well, yeah, I just chose this one because the other three didn't really seem to fit. So, yeah, you really need to like reread or like skim through to check if you got anything wrong or like you misunderstood. Okay, the author of Passage 2 will most likely agree with which statement about the development of Teixobactin shows that conventional methods can still yield new types of antibiotics, and reveals that some antibiotics are effective against gram-negative bacteria. Guessed out on the practicality of searching for new antibiotics in exotic environments. It confirms a strong, long-held belief about a potential source of new antibiotics. Okay. Let's see. It shows the conventional methods. Okay, so basically, it doesn't really say it's conventional. Instead, I'm not I don't know where it is, where it was, but it says unconventional. So it's actually not this. I probably misread. And let's see for A. It reveals that some antibiotics are effective against gram-negative bacteria. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really say anything. It says it doesn't kill gram-negative opportunists as too big to cross their complex cell wall. It doesn't. It says that it doesn't work against gram-negative, but it doesn't say that. It doesn't reveal that it isn't. For this one, it casts doubt on the practicality of searching for new antibiotics in exotic environments. It doesn't cast a doubt, as over here it says many good antibiotic families, penicillin, blah blah blah, come from soil, fungi, bacteria, and then so on and so on. And it's like from exotic environments such as deep oceans, then we might find new natural antibiotics. That's not really casting doubt on it. Instead, it's like sort of agreeing to it. And even if, like, this is a tip, even if you do like process of elimination, go through the process of elimination and eliminate 3 other questions, I wouldn't suggest just checking D. I would still read it if you have time, because reading it is actually like you might have misunderstood the passage and the question. So if you just chose it without reading it, you might have gotten it wrong. But D, it confirms a long-held belief of a potential source of antibiotics. Let's see. In a recent study, researchers including let's just read what Khan Academy said. This is the best choice. The author of Passage 2 would probably agree with this statement. The author begins by outlining the belief that if researchers could grow more types of bacteria from soil, then we might find new natural antibiotics. The author then explains how Lewis's team's technique that led to the development of Teixobactin employed growing bacteria from soil. The author concludes in the last sentence of the first paragraph that this method opens a new gateway to cultivating a wealth of potentially antibiotic-producing bacteria. Yeah, right here. This simple and elegant mythology is the most important finding to my mind, for it opens a gateway to cultivating a wealth of potentially antibiotic-producing bacteria that have never been grown before. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think like this part is what it was trying to like say about how like I'm not sure if it confirms I might have like missed something, but like it does really fit better in a sense, more elegantly compared to this one, and this one. And the 963 caveats most nearly means right here. So what are my caveats? Mm, Exceptions. So what are my exceptions? Well, I see three. I wouldn't really say that fits because like there's no rule or guideline mentioned previously or after. Restrictions. This isn't what caveats means here. Restrictions means rules or limits, which wouldn't make sense in the context. Yeah, because the author is describing more of like his opinions compared to restrictions. Instead, he should have, yeah. If he was gonna use that, it's like own limitations. It's like, what are my restrictions? Yeah, that would. Yeah, that wouldn't really make sense. And then misgivings. This is the best choice. Let's see. So what are my caveats? Well, I have three. First, textobacterianism, blah blah blah, and then yeah, the author uses the words caveats to introduce skeptical comments. So misgivings or reservations about texobacteria bactin's value. Hmm. Yeah. Explanations. So what are my explanations? Yeah. Well, he's not really explaining anything in this context. He's just stating his opinions. So based off of like these four options, this one doesn't fit, this one doesn't either, and neither does this. And since it's asking like about this, we can like concur that misgivings is the best fit for this. And last two. All information in the passage 2 best supports which conclusion about the mice in the experiment described in passage 1. Let's see, the bacteria that cause their upper respiratory tract infections. The upper respiratory tract. Okay, so let's see from the start. Exposure to texobacteria made them less susceptible to subsequent upper respiratory tract infections. This conclusion is supported because passage 2 only says that the texobacterium cured experimental infection in mice, and it doesn't mention um, the the susceptibility to subsequent infections. Gram-positive bacteria enhance the effectiveness of texobacterium against their upper respiratory tract infections. This conclusion isn't supported because passage 2 doesn't suggest that gram-positive bacteria enhance the effectiveness of texobacterium. Instead, it indicates that it doesn't work against gram-positive bacteria because it says, let's see, gram-positive. Yeah, texobacteria kill gram-positive bacteria such as S. aureus. Sorry if I butchered that. In the laboratory, and their upper respiratory tract infection were likely not caused by gram-negative bacteria. What is the best choice? In passage 2 states that texobacterium cured doesn't kill the gram-negative opportunist. Together, these facts suggest that the mice weren't infected with gram-negative bacteria. Otherwise, texobacterium wouldn't have been effective. Okay. This one attack the proteins of the bacteria. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about killing the proteins or like yeah. C is the best choice currently here because right here texobacterium killed gram-positive bacteria such as so on and so on, cured experimental infections in mice, and then here it's like the mice's upper respiratory tract infections were most likely not caused by gram-negative bacteria because it says that texobacterium killed gram-positive. So if it didn't kill gram-positive, then it would probably be caused by gram-positive. But here it's talking about how they were not likely caused by gram positive bacteria or negative bacteria because they were able to cure the mice. And this one just relates to the quote 40 to 44. First one is many. Okay, so it's talking about like where the antibiotics come from. This one 50. This simple and elegant mythology is the most important finding to my mind, for it opens a gateway to cultivating a wealth of potentially so on and haven't been grown before. Yeah, this one supports it because like it doesn't kill the gram-negative opportunists because it doesn't cross the cell wall. And in this passage 1, it indicates that the bacteria or like the Teixobactin kills or cure the infections. So if the infections were gram-negative, then it wouldn't have been able to cure it. So yeah, that is my reflection on this SAT part from Khan Academy, and thank you.